That was a very sweet introduction, and I appreciate it. Thank you. I want to leave you with 2 points this morning. The first is that the Environment and Public Works Committee, notwithstanding the regular battles we have on environmental matters, has consistently been extremely productive and extremely bipartisan with respect to our country's infrastructure. Whether it's WRDA, water infrastructure bills, or highway infrastructure bills, we have a long tradition of working together. That is a tradition I intend to continue with Chair Capito. You'll be hearing from her later today, I believe. She and I get along well personally. My first words when we were opening our first hearing with her as chair were, "I like her, and that's a good start." And I do like her, and that is a good start. So I hope that that tradition will continue. At the moment, there are 2 enormous impediments to that tradition continuing. And that is the threats from the executive branch to freeze or to impound properly appropriated and authorized funding. We simply cannot have a situation in which Congress comes together in bipartisan fashion, agrees on a measure, and a president who has taken an oath to faithfully execute those laws instead picks and chooses among them. The current freeze that we still see extant in Rhode Island is now in violation of a court order, and yet they have not sorted it out. So both appropriators, and I believe Republicans and Democrats alike, and authorizers in Congress are going to need a trustworthy resolution of the question of unilateral freezes and executive branch only impoundments. So we'll see how we get through that. If we do get through that, then I think we go back to what had been a very productive bipartisan relationship on infrastructure. If we don't, then there's going to be continued rancor and jostling until everything falls back into the proper constitutional order in which the legislature has the power of the purse, the executive has the duty to faithfully execute those laws, and the courts determine what the law is and are entitled to have their decisions followed. At the moment, we are not in that proper constitutional order, and we need a very significant reset back to what the Constitution provides. The second point that I want to leave you with has to do with climate change. We have talked about climate change for a long time. Scientists have warned us about climate change for a long time. I've heard a particular lot of it because my wife is a marine scientist, and what is happening in the oceans is astonishingly significant and directly attributable to carbon emissions, indisputably. So we had a long period in which the scientists told us what was going to happen. And in Congress, we had every ability to respond to those warnings and head ourselves away from those dangers. And we catastrophically failed, largely because of highly improper influence from the fossil fuel industry. And so now we're in stage 3, from science to politics. Now it's consequences. Now the stuff that scientists warned of is going to start to happen. We see it in about 10 times the number of billion-dollar disasters that are happening. We see it in coastal infrastructure having to be rebuilt or fortified against rising sea levels and worsened storms. Rhode Island does not have a significant wildfire problem, but if you're out west, you have your own infrastructure risks from wildfire. And where this is coming most to a head right now is in the industry that has a fiduciary obligation to look forward into the future as accurately as it possibly can. And that is the insurance industry. And when the insurance industry looks at the science and the facts and looks forward into what the future is going to be like, it is not a pretty picture. And it's particularly ugly in places that are most vulnerable. Florida, for instance, is really first and worst, with insurance companies abandoning the state, pop-up insurance companies appearing with no record of claims payment to rely on, a very rickety state fund hoping to prop up that remaining private market, costs that have quadrupled, and many people unable to find an insurer at all. That, folks, is the preview of coming attractions for other coastal states. And the way this plays out was warned of by the chief economist for Freddie Mac, not a green guy, a mortgage guy. And he said what happens is when you can't get homeowners insurance because an insurance company can't predict the safety of that property against storms and hazards, you then can't get a mortgage on that property because you need insurance to get a mortgage. And once you can't get a mortgage on your property, one you bought with a mortgage, unless you can find a multimillionaire to buy it cash, you've got a real problem finding buyers. And when buyers aren't available because mortgages aren't available, property values crash. And what the chief economist of Freddie Mac warned is of a coastal property values crash that would cascade into the economy with the same effect as the 2008 mortgage meltdown. Looks like some of you were around for the 2008 mortgage meltdown and all the pain that caused. We do not want to go through that again. Oh, and by the way, next to that coastal property values crash risk is the wildfire property values crash risk, which has emerged much more suddenly and was not even considered in the initial report by Freddie Mac. If you doubt me and you think I'm just a liberal New Englander spouting climate nonsense, read the April issue of The Economist magazine. Again, not a green entity, not a green publication. It's the cover article, and it says that climate change is going to shake the foundations of the world's largest asset class, real estate, to the tune of $25 trillion. So this period of consequences that we are entering and whose early stages are being signaled to us by the homeowners insurance crisis in Florida and California, and I think emerging probably in particular counties in many of your states, is something we really need to pay attention to. And so when people want to unwind CAFE standards and add to the load of climate emissions, of carbon emissions that we're putting into the atmosphere through our highway network, there should be an asterisk attached to that. Remember that this is about to get really dangerous. It's all been talk until now. Then comes the insurance problem, and then the real hits follow, which include, again, 2008-style crash to the general economy. So I am ardently going to try to solve this problem every possible way that I can, but to the extent that you all can pitch in, that your states can pitch in, that you can protect the CAFE standards that presently exist, all of that can be consequential. We need to win a lot of small fights to win the big battle, to protect ourselves and our children and our grandchildren from what we have set upon them through our carbon emissions. I'm sorry this is not a more pleasant tale, but those are the facts as we have constructed them for ourselves in the way we have behaved in Congress. And until we change, things are going to continue to worsen in that respect. So Godspeed to you in your work. May I hope that we clear this constitutional dispute that we're having right now and go back to what the Constitution says the roles of the branches are. And let's hope that we finally listen to what the scientists have been saying to us for 20 years now. Thank you so much. Have a great time. There are consequences to what you do. God bless you.